As an undergraduate, I studied English and computer science, and people often thought that these were mutually contradictory. People would say, Miro, oh, you're doing these two different things. It must be really hard to whip your brain back and forth between these two different subject areas. And I don't know, it's never felt like that for me. For me, both the way in which we think about telling stories to influence people and to create emotion and to change ideas is about structure, and it's about employing a set of tools, and it's about understanding how those tools work. And computer science and the study of technology and this data visualization is no different in that sense. It's a set of complex systems that you have to figure out how to piece them together to get the effect that you want. And I think that's why I ended up in data communications, was really this idea of how do you take these hard observable facts in the world, which are actually pretty hard for humans to wrap their heads around. We're not particularly good at that. And how do you honestly and effectively turn them into stories, which is part of how we're programmed to process the world. And that gets us into trouble because stories aren't always the best explanation for what is going on in this sometimes random, complicated, multi-dimensional world. But as a communicator and organization, I think it's part of your job to create those stories so that people can understand and push them to better decisions. So for me, the challenge of how do you think about complicated, strange, random world, and how do you explain it to people in a way that makes sense? I just think that's the greatest job anyone could have. So we did a survey of incoming Sloan students this year. Actually, 3/4 of the class responded to the survey. So a really good picture of what does the workplace look like right now for people generally in their late 20s coming out of the workforce and into business school. And there was a lot of things they said they wanted to work on. One of the big ones was visualizing data. And we think that's because students are recognizing that this visual literacy is a really important currency for them in the modern economy and for their success in the workplace. And at Sloan, we agree, and that's part of why we're adding our Communicating with Data class to the curriculum this year. I think the most surprising thing that came out of our survey of incoming Sloan students was the degree to which writing for them takes on two forms. In their personal life, it's text messages. And in their professional life, it's much more presentations and slides. 84% of students said a substantial part of their work before they came to MIT Sloan was creating presentations. Only 48% of students said that long-form writing was a substantial part of their work before coming to Sloan. So it appears that writing and this kind of long-form writing is on the decline. And I think we really need to think differently about how we train people in communications when there's a lot of things that writing trains you to do that our students and our modern workers just aren't going to get the same training in. So a lot more training energy is going to have to be put into thinking about things like structure and organization of thoughts, which long-form writing basically teaches you just by doing it. If you're not doing that, well, we're going to have to get that training in some other way.